Blair Greenlaw. I'm one of the founders of Missionaire. And just to speak for the group, I want to tell you that none of us thought we'd be doing something like this. I think this is really one of those God things because I tell you what, I'm the aviation part of this group, and I never thought I was going to fly a plane. I never had any aspirations to do so. In fact, when I was in college, here's a quick story just to kind of demonstrate that we're not intentionally getting involved in this thing. When I was in college, I'm about a junior, and I had it all planned out, I was saved as a young boy, but, like many of you maybe, and especially in your college years, my path was right here, and God's path for me was over here. And I could see it. It was over there all the time, but I wasn't really walking down the path He wanted to. So I decided, hey, God, I'm going to be a lawyer. Not just a lawyer, I'm going to be a corporate lawyer, doggone it. I'm going to make a ton of money. I'm going to be powerful, and people are going to think I'm cool. And then this big bucket of water hit me in the face. And God said, man, you don't know what you're talking about. And so as you know, if you've gone on a mission trips, you don't just show up to the airport and leave. There's some organizational meetings, right? Some team building activities that go on. And sure enough, during the course of that, and the experience I've had, not only with my military aviation career, and I failed to mention that I fly airplanes internationally for a major airline right now, I realized we're wasting a lot of time and money here doing these short-term mission trips. I don't get it. I was a skeptic from day one once they started telling me about the logistics. We can wrest control of mission trip logistics away from the airlines because not to really make it cheaper for you to go to Jamaica, and that would be a great byproduct, but because of the difficulty it was for us to get to Panama. Let me just describe that. Dr. Proctor alluded to it, but here it is. And you probably have worse stories, but I'll tell you mine real quick. We wake up at 2 a.m. to get to the church at 3 a.m. From 3 a.m., we take a bus to Jacksonville International. Wait around there, of course. Take a flight to Miami International. Wait around there some more. Take a flight to Panama. Land in Panama City. Hey, we're there. No. You're not there. You got to get on a bus and cross the town to the little small airport. And then get on an Air Panama flight. Right there you should be saying, that's scary. Get on an Air Panama flight that runs once a week on Fridays during that season to fly to David, Panama, to get on another bus to get to the mission site. That took all about 22 hours. And we were told we were lucky because some teams have to drive down to Orlando the night before, check in a hotel, and just add to their trip. So you're talking days. Now, I thought that was bad enough, but then when I started seeing that, hey, we're witnessing to these Nobi Indian tribe in Panama. They're not considered unreached because there's churches nearby. But there's all those people around the world, there aren't churches nearby. Do you know 40% of the Earth's population are considered unreached? Now, you and I, if we're average Americans, get 2 weeks of vacation a year, right? Something like that, if we're lucky, a little bit more. So you're going to sacrifice one of those 2 weeks to go on a mission trip. Yeah, I understand we're trying to be obedient. But how does it feel when someone tells you out of that week you're investing, 4 days you're traveling, 3 days you're actually on scene? But to me and you, that seems like a waste of time, wasted money, right? Well, unfortunately, that's where the unreached people are. So what do you and I do? Well, we'll go on a mission trip, but we'll go on one that's easier to get to. So what happens to the unreached? They remain unreached, right? Because we are dependent upon commercial air travel to get us to cities so we can go out from there. But if you're traveling to a city, chances are there's a church in that city. So guess what? Those people aren't unreached because there's an opportunity for them to hear the gospel. This broke our hearts. My team says this can't be so. So we've decided to do this, create this organization, and we're here tonight to talk to you about our hopes and dreams, but also to hear your hopes and dreams, to find out what you folks are doing, and to figure out how together we can better walk out what it says in Matthew 28. Because as you know, it doesn't say go to a nation. It says go to, the operative word, all nations. And so we need to do that to be obedient. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. Based in Jacksonville, Florida, we have the opportunity to service Caribbean, Central, and South American mission trips. So we want to partner with you to do what you're already doing. And if your church is not involved with missions work, well, we want to help you figure that out. We want to help you get there. Here's what's really on our hearts as missionaire. Like I said, taking the gospel to the unreached. Yes, we're gonna help all the ministries everybody's involved with now, that we're involved with, that we love. But our hopes and dreams is to break down that barrier that commercial aviation has to keeping us from those people groups. And we want to put airplanes downrange in other areas of the world. The 10 to 40 window, if you're at all familiar with missions work, that's where the unreached people group live. And you notice the Western Hemisphere is not there. That's where people do not have access to the gospel. So by placing airplanes around the world, just like the airplane we want to fly out of Jacksonville, let's think of one in Dakar, Senegal. We can reach all of Africa. Putting one in the Philippines or Indonesia, we can reach all of Southeast Asia. And then putting one in Eastern Europe. From there, we fly in missionaries, missions teams, and then branch them out to where the gospel isn't. And in that activity, we take the gospel to the unreached. So that was our dream. That was our hope. But we're bringing you in a room because we can't do it alone. And this isn't going to be a sales pitch, but God's put limits on our team. And the limits are we run in the same network. And so we need to expand our network. And so we've invited you to this room because we need your help to do that. So, I'm a social media novice. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never had a Twitter account or a Facebook page, but I know you all do. And I'm asking you tonight to help support us. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. I know that sounds silly and generic, but it works. I've become a believer in social media and the power of social media and how it could spread a message and how it can help us create something that can change the world. And secondly, I'm going to ask you to go back to your organizations and tell them, we need to meet this guy and his group. We need to find out what they're doing. Ask them to schedule a meeting with us. We want to come and see what you guys are up to and help you better do what you're already doing. It's tough for me to beat a trip to Jamaica because it's such a short leg and there's so many carriers that go in there. They really reduce the cost, but I'm pretty competitive because of what you're talking about. Carrying extra ministry bags, I mean, at $50 a pop or 75 or whatever you're at. Late, and let's talk about churches and trying to fill up mission trips. Well, there's a lot of changes the last second. All adds up in dollars. Extra nights in hotels, all adds up in dollars. So in reality, on paper, I'm a mission, an airline ticket to Jamaica out of Orlando is like $450 or something in that nature. I'm doing it at like $525 is the last I looked. It depends on the price of fuel, honestly. But if you factor in all the rest of the problems and all the rest of the issues, I mean, I think it beats it. Not to mention the fact that you can bring whatever you want on the plane. You can bring medical gear. You can bring parts for your trucks that you're working on. And let's not forget, having this asset, that opens up the church to do all kinds of activities. Our intention is not just to take short-term missionaries, to Jamaica and Panama and even to the unreached. We're going to be here for disaster and humanitarian relief, right? Jimbo Stockton was telling you about what he did in Haiti. Guess what happens in Haiti when there's a hurricane? Well, commercial air travel stops. Everybody leaves town if they can. There's nobody that can fly and supply. So you got people hurting, dying, and there's no vehicle for them to receive the help they can. And so having a charter airline dedicated to kingdom work, once a disaster like that happens, we're ready to deploy it to that problem. Let's talk about church planting, okay? I'm not so naive to think that we're going to take one trip of missionaries into Brazil and make everybody Christians. No. You got to do some work, some heavy lifting there. You got to plant some churches, and that takes multiple trips, right? So we're intending on doing all those kinds of activities as well. This is part of the whole beauty of missionaire, because it says in Matthew 28, it doesn't say, a couple of you guys go. It says you're a disciple of Christ. You go. You go to all nations. You don't create a huge mega church in Jerusalem and convert the city. You go into all nations. That's what Paul did, right? He planted all these churches, and what ended up happening? Well, Christianity spread, and here we are today. But a lot of churches, not everybody has a missional mindset. But what we're going to do is we're going to take you folks to where you're going currently and take other churches who aren't going anywhere, but have a kind of a thought, we want to get into this ball game, take them someplace. And then, of course, amongst themselves and amongst their peers, they're going to talk about what's going on, and in so doing, inspire more churches to be missional. So that's really what we need to do. Because people have this huge barrier to walking out the Great Commission. I mean, you can name a number of things. Money, time, whatever. I got football to watch. We need to break that down and say, hey, you know what, it's not as hard as you think it is, and oh, by the way, it's going to change your life. So that's part of our message.